this is going to sound like a huge prisoner of the moment take. But the question we just threw out there, of all the prospects in the Bay Area right now, who would you make a futures bet on? In other words, you win the bet if this person becomes the biggest star of the bunch. Because I certainly hope that more than one of them will pan out.
Yeah.
But who's going to be the biggest star of the bunch? It's the three new Giants, Matos, Schmitt, and Bailey. And then Jonathan Kuminga from the Warriors, Purdy and Lance from the 49ers. This is going to sound so Johnny-come-lately. But my chip goes to Matos. My chip goes to Luis Matos.
Wow.
Because we're asking who could become a star. If I were to project, and I'm going to do this just by like my brain's Vegas odds on each individual player right now as to where they're going to end up. I'm no dream crusher. I hope all six are stars. But I would project right now that Brock Purdy becomes like this solid NFL quarterback who wins a lot of football games and maybe even ends up being a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But a star. Like
if he wins the Super Bowl, he's a star.
I disagree.
Okay.
Quarterbacks can win. Is Nick Foles a star?
Had he stayed in Philadelphia, absolutely.
I just, you know what I mean? Like,
I get what you're saying.
It's not automatic.
Right.
I think, there's a star quality to people. Even Matt Stafford is like, I get it. That's a big name. He'll probably be a Hall of Famer someday, but he's never, even when he won, he was never like one of the top 5 QBs you'd draft if you had a chance to pick one.
Exactly.
So, anyway, that's Brock's ceiling right now. Trey Lance, I hate to say it, the projection right now, the money is on him not becoming a great player at all.
Or not being a 49er at all.
I
think that's where the money is. Nope. And I think that there's smarter money on him not being a Niner than there is money on him not being a good player. I think he's more likely to still be a good player than he is to be a 49er. I think the likelihood is that he's not a 49er for more than another, 12 months. Because if Brock Purdy's healthy enough to win the job, and we'll get to the George Kittle sound coming up in terms of that very topic, if Purdy wins the job and Trey Lance is the backup, there's no guarantee that Trey Lance gets to play. And if this year goes on and Purdy stays healthy and Lance remains the backup, QB2 or QB3 or whatever, at the end of the year, I would imagine that he's going to want to go play elsewhere and that he will go and play elsewhere.
Yeah, I get that. That's definitely, I think right now the money is on neither one of them. The money is on he won't be a Niner, and the money is on he won't be a great starter. And the only reason I say that is not because I'm anti-Trey Lance.
Hater.
It's because you haven't seen it.
Right.
Usually it pops a little bit, especially when someone's been around the league for 2 years. I know he's green. I know he didn't play a lot of college football. I'm not telling you that he can't be a good player. But you usually see a little bit more. And when I hear that the concerns are, well, he's not accurate. Well, that's kind of a big deal. That's kind of a really, really, really big deal.
You're saying that's a prerequisite for a guy who throws the football is to be accurate?
Prerequisite to be a good quarterback. Yes.
It's like saying if you're a baseball player who's a hitter, you need to be able to hit the ball.
There you go.
Or if you're an NBA player, you need to be able to score the basketball at some point.
Something like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
I do think it's more likely that Trey Lance becomes a star elsewhere than him being a 49er long term. But again, in terms of the odds in this conversation, I would put Trey Lance near the bottom. I would put Matos number 2. I do think that Brock Purdy is my number 1 because he's got a leg up. He's already been to a conference championship game, and he's the starting quarterback for a team that is among the Super Bowl favorites. So even if he goes on to have a mediocre year, if the Niners win the Super Bowl and he's the Super Bowl winning quarterback for the 49ers, he becomes a star.
I get that. You're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong on that. And then, you look at Kuminga right now. And by the way, I'm holding up the word and the number to text the word to. It is up. And this is the last time you're going to see it today. The contest will continue throughout the week, but this is the last time prior to 5 o'clock that is going to happen today. So you need to be on Twitch and YouTube right now. I'll hold this up for another couple minutes so that you can get there. But there's the word and there's the number. You text the word to the number, and then wonderful things happen in your life.
Don't text the number to the word because that doesn't work. And you could try that.
There's no doubt somebody did that today. There's no doubt that happened at least once.
Well, just like last week, we were giving away Seinfeld tickets while you were gone.
Oh, how'd that go?
It went great.
Did I get any?
I begged people not to call 888-957-9570.
Oh, that never
we gave
works.
the contest line and
no, that's all. Yeah,
the phone line blew up.
The fact that you say don't call said number, all people hear is the number, and then they call.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
but if you want to weigh on who's going to be the next star, do call the number.
Yeah, 888-957-9570. I would say Jonathan Kuminga, his odds right now, this is what if I were to put my chip into a bet, I bet Jonathan Kuminga becomes a rotational player in the NBA, whether it's for the Warriors or somebody else, and maybe he's a fringe starter, maybe he's an active bench player. He is often a highlight reel, but never somebody who's going to go north of 17 points a game, never going to threaten for an all-star
An all-star game, yeah. And that would be the threshold of being a star. I still would put him ahead of Casey Schmitt, even though Casey Schmitt, I think what Casey Schmitt provides you at the major league level is star quality on the defensive side, and I don't know if that is good enough to make you a star anymore.
Not anymore. Like, that used to work.
Ozzie Smith.
Yeah. You used to be able to
Omar Vizquel.
Yeah, be an awesome defensive shortstop who can sometimes get hits, bat 250, bat 260, give us 10 to 15 home runs a year, and we're on our way. And by the way, that might be what Casey is. If Casey can hit, because think about it, this is who Brandon Crawford was for years. Phenomenal defensive player. See if you can bat 250. See if you can hit 12 home runs. You're in the lineup. And we love Brandon. He's had a forever Giant career.
Yep.
I think that is what the likely or the hope is for Casey Schmitt. Could he outdo it? Sure. But to me, Bailey is the other one who's right there because of the importance of his position. He's switch hitting catcher. That's special. He's already special defensively. If this first week or two or three is any indication, if he can even just be, if he can hit 280 and he can hit, what's he got already? 3 home runs?
Yeah.
If he can hit 280 and that guy can hit 15 to 18 home runs a year and catch the way he does, that's a National League All-Star at that position. That's an All-Star.
Yeah. I think that's a big ask based on a small sample, and I know that you recognize that the sample
first round
is
draft
very
pick,
small.
Yeah,
he is.
This is a prospect,
but it's a catcher, and I think that the longevity of the catching position is such to where Patrick Bailey probably doesn't have the same amount of time to become a star as Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga's only 20, and if he plays his cards right and does develop and get better, he's got a good 12 to 15 more years in the association based on the average length of a career. So I would take Kuminga over Schmitt and over Bailey as my third choice. I would go Bailey fourth and then Schmitt fifth in my gonna be a star power rankings.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put my chip with Matos. You and I have Matos and Purdy flipped. Purdy 2 for me. Bailey is going to be 3. Kuminga 4. Schmitt 5. Trey Lance 6.
Yeah,
that's how I'd do it.
I would probably put Trey Lance 4 on the hope that he goes elsewhere and becomes a star because I don't see it happening here. And you can say it's fair or it's unfair. It's not my decision. And if you think that Trey Lance deserves a shot, well, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, but Kyle Shanahan is the guy making this call. And if he sees Trey Lance up close and personal, and he does, every single rep, every single throw, he sees it live, he sees it again on tape, and he knows whether or not Brock Purdy or Trey Lance is a better football player in his mind. And unfortunately, his opinion is the only one that really counts. Him, Brian Griese, and the entire coaching staff. So if they decide that Brock Purdy is the guy and Trey Lance is not the guy, then it's going to be hard for Trey Lance to become a star here.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on Twitch, YouTube, and the free Odyssey app. Yeah, I agree with you. And then there's this. So we're sitting in the Higgins office before the show, and he plays this George Kittle. Thank you. That's right. I was allowed in. He plays this comment from George Kittle on the Dan Patrick Show, which we'll play for you here in just a second. And he goes, "Yeah, this surprised me that he said this because I thought this was going to be open competition. Purdy and Lance and Darnold's open competition." And I'm thinking to myself, well, who told you that? I think the world told you that. And I think that the 49ers have allowed the world to go with that story because of Trey Lance. Because they want Trey Lance to hear that. They want Sam Darnold to hear that. Yep, open competition. And it's true to a degree. That's the way football works. You come in, you don't play well, the other person does, the other person gets to play. But listen to this, because this is from inside the locker room. This is George Kittle. Do you want to know how open this competition is at quarterback? You tell me after hearing this, when Kittle was asked by Dan Patrick if he expects Brock Purdy to start week 1.
No, are you expecting Brock to be starting week 1?
Oh, yeah. I am. I mean, if you win 8 games in a row, it's hard to bench that guy.
No, I mean health-wise.
Oh, yeah. I do. I mean, he's been throwing. I think he looks good. I've seen him throw once or twice. He's confident. He's in a good place mentally and physically. So I'm excited about that. We were rolling with him, averaging 30 points a game. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, so focus less on the fact that he said yes and the tone that he used.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah. Wait.
Like no Schmitt, Sherlock?
You thought something else was on the table?
Right?
Nothing else is on the table.
Well, then he follows up with, he's been injured. Oh, that.
Yeah,
of course.
But he's throwing.
Totally.
He's throwing. You really think that the 49ers were just going to bebop along and let his surgery bleed into a spot where he wouldn't be ready for week 1? The whole world is ready for setbacks. They happen in life. If they do, that's a different day. Nobody predicts them. You don't predict a setback. We're sitting here telling you what's going to happen. And I think the world has run with this. Well, let's see if Trey can take advantage of this opportunity. What opportunity? What opportunity? The job has been...
what-if opportunity.
It's been filled. The job's been filled.
What if he has a setback? What if his arm falls off?
Then the backup steps in, and that's the job that's on the table.
Right.
The job has been filled. I have this in my house. There are high schoolers everywhere. They're out looking for jobs. And sometimes the kids from college with experience come back from the summer. And you know what they tell you? The job's been filled. But you can go do this and stay here and be ready.
Cleaning carts.
When they go back to school in September, if you'd like to maybe, I don't know, do something then maybe you'll be ready. We'll see if it turns that way. I don't know.
Be the backup.
No promises. Yeah. You can be over here in our reserves, but the job has been filled. And everybody with the 49ers seems to know that. It's just everybody on the outside that, like, we can't. And I get why. How can we process that the 3rd pick in the draft got beat out by Mr. Irrelevant? It's absurd.
It's absurd,
but it's real.
George Kittle just told you when a guy comes and goes 8-0, and technically it was only 7-0 because he doesn't get credit for coming off the bench against Miami, but I get it. He should, but he doesn't. So when Kittle says, the guy came out and went 8-0, and really the loss does count against him, so it's semantics, but Kittle tells you all you need to know about how they feel in the locker room. The guy goes 7-0, and we average 30 points a game. So, I think he's going to start Dan. That was my tone, not George.
Is it a Dan day? I didn't know.
For George Kittle.
Dan day, my gosh.
I mean, Dan Patrick goes by DP occasionally, but he's definitely a Dan.
Yeah,
it's always a Dan day with Dan Patrick.
I think this is one of those things, and I get why, and we're certainly a part of this. It's sports radio, and we love this stuff. And everybody wants to know what's going to happen, and you don't get to know what's going to happen until it happens. But we want to know, so it's a speculation sensation, and we all want to get our opinions in there, and so that's all great. That's all great. That's what we do.
Cha-ching!
But I think the 49ers are sitting there going, "This is not we're not having a competition. We're not. These are not job interviews."
No, and they've told you as such.
We have a quarterback. His name is Brock Purdy. We have our guy.
Every interview you've heard from Shanahan or John Lynch have referred to things like leader in the clubhouse or if Brock's healthy, he's our guy. Pretty definitive statements. Now, they have never said, nor will they say anything disparaging about Trey Lance, just in case somebody comes knocking and they say, hey, I see that Brock Purdy is throwing, when preseason gets underway and you start to have quarterback injuries, another team might make that call and say, hey, we want to talk to you about Trey Lance. And the Niners will say, we love Trey Lance. I mean, yeah, Brock is our guy. He's our starter, but Trey's right there. Trey's right there. He could take the job at any moment. Oh, you want to give us a fourth rounder? Done.
All right. Yeah. Maybe that might be what's going on. They also might need him.
Odds are.
But it's funny that it's coming from Kittle because he was the one who made news a week ago. He was like, I'm not going to lie. Trey looks way better this year. And everyone's like, oh, Trey looks way better this year. Well, here's the guy. And what this is a window into, and I've made this point a couple of times. You can't sell to the locker room anything other than Brock Purdy starting. You can't. It's not possible. Veterans who want to go win the Super Bowl, he said it in his answer there. When you go 8-0, you're our starting quarterback. So I don't see a scenario of healthy players and we get to the end of this thing in August and suddenly you're trying to pitch to the locker room. Yeah, you're gonna take a look at Trey. Maybe we got a package for Trey. We'll have him come in here and there. I don't think that I know a lot of people want the 49ers to consider that. I don't think they're considering that at all.
No, it's not a consideration, to borrow from Gabe Kapler. It's absolutely not a consideration if Brock Purdy is healthy for a number of reasons. One, he's better than Trey Lance. Two, the locker room thinks he's better than Trey Lance. And three, when Brock Purdy quarterbacks, you don't lose, other than the NFC Championship game where his arm fell off. So how could you, in any way, shape, or form, forget pitching it to the locker room? Because if you have the locker room, and Kyle has the locker room, you could sell it to them if you believed it and if it was close. But how are you going to take a guy out who has done as well as Brock Purdy has? Coming straight out of the draft, he's done this.
You're not.
You just can't.
You're not. Exactly.